On Saturday, July 1st, Vermonters who are 21 years or older will be able to legally possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana. They will also be able to cultivate up to 2 mature and 4 immature plants per household. If you're caught in possession of more than 1 ounce, the law calls for a court diversion proceeding for your first offense. After that, criminal charges may be brought for subsequent offenses. Caught with more than 2 ounces, and it's a criminal offense the first time. As Vermont joins a growing list of states where possession of relatively small amounts of marijuana has been either legalized or decriminalized, we spoke with some local law enforcement officials about how they are seeing this changeover. Manchester's police chief, Michael Hall, gave us his concerns.
We were under the understanding, or at least the impression, that before the legislature legalized marijuana, that they would have certain safeguards in place, such as a roadside sampling test, and hopefully some sort of definitive mechanism to measure the degree of impairment, so that we could enforce the law. Now, my understanding, the way the law is written, an impairment to any degree would give sufficient cause for a law enforcement officer to, make an arrest and charge someone if they suspected that they were operating under the influence of marijuana or any drug for that matter. The only issue that I can see that is problematic for law enforcement is, who's going to pay the cost for this. The initial testing, as it is right now, involves a blood test. It also involves having that test analyzed by an independent laboratory, and then, of course, without having a definitive level of THC in the system, I would suspect it's probably going to involve a fair amount of litigation and legal wrangling through the courts, and I'm not sure where that's going to land. And I was hopeful that that sort of stuff would be dealt with at the legislative level, but it obviously wasn't. So, that's concerning to us. The only other real thing that I'm a little concerned about is that, I know a lot of people talk about Colorado and some of the places that marijuana is currently legal. They're a big place in the middle of nowhere, and we're a small place in the middle of everywhere. We're in uncharted waters with this thing, so it's a little bit concerning to me, as I don't know what kind of increase in folks coming into the area that we may or may not see. Certainly we want it to be an enjoyable experience for them, but at the same time, we're going into the kind of blind as to what we might expect, and hopefully it won't be as big of a deal as what we think it could be, and I'm not suggesting that it's going to be, but our job is to prepare for the worst and hope for the least.
We then talked with Bennington County State's Attorney Erica Marthage about what she saw as problematic about the changeover.
My main concern at this point is that the perception that Vermont now is a state where marijuana use and possession is completely legal is not an accurate depiction of the law. So some of the difficulty that law enforcement, I think, is running into is the idea that when July 1 comes, everyone thinks all of a sudden we're going to be Colorado and everything is legal and possession is legal and purchasing marijuana is legal and selling it is legal and growing as much as you want is legal, and that's not an accurate depiction of the law. So I think the challenge is going to be trying to get at the people that are disobeying the law or breaking the law in substance, knowing that they're breaking the law, as opposed to the people that are just unwittingly or unknowingly possessing 3 or 4 plants instead of 2 mature plants that's allowed by law. So I think the messaging around this new legislation is going to be really important. It's all in the details. For example, smoking marijuana in a public place is a civil violation. Smoking in an enclosed vehicle with a child under 18 is a violation. And these are all things that if you are someone who wants to partake in smoking marijuana, you just need to know the details around what is exactly becoming legal on July 1.
Many of these details are spelled out in a training bulletin developed by the Vermont State Police and can be found online by doing a search for the Vermont State Police's Marijuana Training Manual. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.